Trump claims he has reached a new deal with Tehran just hours after Iran bombed US allies, raising sharp questions over why Washington is talking compromise immediately after a lethal attack. Iran has agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, Trump declared on June 3rd, presenting it as a fresh assurance from Tehran even as critics question what concrete enforcement mechanisms exist. Trump says Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was directly involved in the talks and personally gave his approval. Hinting at a new diplomatic spectacle, Trump signals a possible meeting with Mojtaba, saying he expects to sit down with the Iranian Supreme Leader at some point. All this comes just after Iran launched a deadly attack on Kuwait airport and civilian infrastructure that killed one person. Fresh fears of regional escalation emerged after Iran reportedly launched missiles toward US-linked targets in the Gulf. Iran's Revolutionary Guards claimed responsibility for what they described as precise strikes against American military positions. Iran said the operation was retaliation for reported American military action targeting Qeshm Island. The Revolutionary Guards warned that any new attack would be met with a far stronger response. Tehran declared that future confrontations would carry consequences for any force targeting Iranian territory. Press TV's report said, and I quote, Iran's IRGC announced that it struck a U.S. military airbase and the U.S. Fifth Fleet's headquarters with missiles and drones in retaliation for American attacks. The IRGC said a U.S. warplane first hit an Iranian tanker near the Strait of Hormuz late last night, causing engine room damage. In response, the IRGC targeted a U.S.-affiliated vessel named Panaya with naval missiles. After a subsequent U.S. strike on an IRGC telecom tower on Qeshm Island, the IRGC Aerospace Force attacked a U.S. air and helicopter base in a regional country as well as the Fifth Fleet's command center. The IRGC warned that any violation of security in the Strait of Hormuz would bring a harsh price for the U.S. military, unquote. Authorities in Bahrain activated warning sirens and advised residents to move to safe locations. American forces claimed they successfully engaged several incoming missiles and drones during the attack. CENTCOM statement read, and I quote, U.S. forces successfully defeated multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and drones, and conducted self-defense strikes on Qeshm Island in response to attempted attacks by Iran across the Middle East, June 2nd. Iran launched several ballistic missiles toward regional neighbors. However, all failed to hit their intended targets. 2 Iranian missiles fired at Kuwait fell short or broke apart en route, and 3 missiles launched at Bahrain were immediately intercepted by U.S. and Bahrain air defense forces. Moments earlier, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, forces shot down 3 one-way attack drones launched by Iran toward civilian mariners that were rightfully transiting regional waters. American forces also conducted self-defense strikes on an Iranian military ground control station on Qeshm Island. No U.S. personnel were harmed. CENTCOM forces remain vigilant and ready to defend against unwarranted Iranian aggression during the ongoing ceasefire, unquote. According to U.S. officials, the missiles either malfunctioned or were intercepted before impact. CENTCOM said it conducted defensive strikes against an Iranian control facility linked to the operation. Iranian media reported explosions near Qeshm as tensions intensified across the Gulf region. The U.S. military claimed additional Iranian drones targeting maritime traffic were intercepted. The latest exchange of fire has raised fresh doubts about the durability of the current ceasefire.
We've now seen the Strait closed for months, and you explained that we're going to see an opening of the Strait, and ultimately the exchange we will get for that is after that fact we will release certain sanctions. Is that correct?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was that if they open the Straits, we will lift our blockade. The Straits and the blockade are what are interrelated.
And so for the nuclear program, in exchange for getting rid of the fissile material out of country, I imagine, is what the highly enriched uranium, we would release sanctions. Is that correct?
Well, it's not just that. It's also their enrichment activity. They would have to, they would have to make very severe and significant concessions on what they intend to enrich in the future.
And already with the March relaxing of sanctions, allowing Iranians to sell oil to the Chinese, estimates have been between $10 and $50 billion they got from that relaxing of sanctions. How much money might we see in a deal in our relaxings of sanctions in order to get rid of the highly enriched uranium and stop their enrichment?
Well, let me just tell you on that portion. The sanctions that were released on Iran were boats on the water. And so that oil was already out in the marketplace. It was sold at market rates, but the sanctions covered, and to the extent we've been able to enforce them, we have the revenues of those sales. So yeah, the Iranian oil was unsanctioned so that it could be sold, but the revenue would have to flow back to blocked accounts, which our sanctions were able to go after. We've also seized, I believe, 6 vessels in the Indo-Pacific that involved Iranian sanctioned oil on top of it. So that wasn't necessarily a trade. They didn't get $50 billion directly as a result of. They might have gotten some of it. They certainly didn't get the majority of it. They are now losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day in revenue because of the blockade. And the blockade exists because of what they're doing in the Straits.
Right. And I guess the conclusion I have, and my time's expired, is that the Strait of Hormuz was open before this unjustified war. We're now scrambling to try to find a way to get it back opened again. Not only is it causing economic havoc to our country and to residents all around this nation, families trying to make ends meet, but you see on top of that, the Iranians finding ways to leverage that, as we allowed them to do with the Chinese for tens of billions of dollars.
Yeah. Now,
so here we have a worse situation where our adversary and our enemy, who's causing havoc in the region, who is funding proxies and terrorists, has discovered, thanks to you all, the power of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz.
No, they didn't discover. They knew that a long time ago, and they've done it before.
Clearly, we all knew that a long time ago. That's why this ill-conceived war should have never happened.
Yeah, but
you have made our adversary in a stronger negotiating position. We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and we're in a stalemate with Iran. And now we're begging to get back into a deal that you all trashed in the first place.
There's no one begging. I don't
Clearly,
know.
this is a
Senator Booker, your time's up.
But
Senator Rubio, since he's
I do
gone
want to
over,
address
you can
some of these points
respond.
because they go to the heart of the matter. No one's begging for anything here. The Iranians might be begging because their economy's losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. That they are losing. Understand, Iran had street protests going on before all of this started. All of those factors, economic factors in Iran, are far worse today than they were 6 months ago when those protests were happening. They have hyperinflation, their currency's completely devalued, they're struggling to make payroll for their government workers. Iran is in a very serious situation, and if it was up to the political class there, and I understand everybody there is sort of radical in some way, but if it was up to the people that actually go to elections and wear the suits and you see on TV, they'd probably make a deal tomorrow. It's the issue they're facing is that the supreme leader and the IRGC Corps are a little bit more immune from those pressures until they can be convinced otherwise. And I think that's the direction that they're moving in, because the reality, I don't know where you're getting this perception that Iran is stronger. Iran has no navy left. They've lost a substantial percentage of their defense industrial base. That Iran has lost a substantial percentage of their missile launchers, and their economy is far worse today.